exploded at my family after finding out my uncle is my father, a throwaway here obviously, I'm 18, and I think I just experienced the most fucked up things possible in my life. Arianen. A bit of background. I have been raised by my grandparents for the whole of my lives, and they did well tbh, despite their advanced ages. I've been told by them early on that I was given up for adoption by some distant cousin. They didn't want to tell who at first, and that the person doesn't want to do anything by me, so I didn't think much of it. Besides, why would I want to do something with someone who doesn't want me? Anyways, when I reached 18 like a few weeks ago, my grandparents sat me down with my uncle. I'm not really super close with him, and then proceeded to tell me that he is my father. I was shocked, felt like the world was collapsing, and I was disoriented. My uncle then started crying and told me the reason why he abandoned me to my grandparents is that he blamed me for the reason that his wife died. Like WTF, his wife died giving birth to me, and thus he couldn't take it well through the grief and given up me to my grandparents. After all that, it clicked to me. Why this particular uncle always resembles me so much, or how he always avoided me or act cold to me during family functions. Not that he always attended, or how my grandparents always don't speak much of him. It's just so crazy to me. Admittedly, I couldn't hold my emotions well. I blew up at my grandparents and my uncle for keeping this secret from me, and my uncle blaming me for the death of his wife. I ran to my room and locked myself there. My grandpa knocked several times on my room, but I kept calling them not nice names, so they left me alone eventually. It's been a few weeks now since it happened, and my uncle is nowhere to be seen. Good riddance though. But my grandma said I could have at least understood his position and that he wanted to rekindle the father-son relationship. I said hell no, but then I DK what to think about anymore. AITA for not telling my ex-wife that we lived in a rental apartment. Hi, back in 2008 when I started university, I rented a 2-bedroom apartment with my ex-girlfriend at the time and my friend and his girlfriend. We got a great deal for it, as the owner of the place lost his job because of everything that happened back then and decided to try her luck abroad where she still lives. Years went by, and after university, my friend and his GF decided to find a place of their own. As we had full-time jobs, renting this apartment together did not seem expensive anymore, and also did not seem expensive to rent alone after we broke up sometime later. So there I was, alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in the central part of the city. The owner decided that she was too lazy to mess with bills and stuff every month and made arrangements for me to pay everything directly. As I earned her trust, I still pay her monthly rent, which is very cheap for today, and deal with everything else having her authorization. Because of the perfect location, my 2nd bedroom was basically free B&B for my friends who did not live in the city, and I did not mind. It is good to have company if you live alone. In 2020, I met a girl who was in a rush to get married, and as I was madly in love, we did in 2021. For some reason, I never told her the story of how I rented the place or that it was a rental at all. It just never came up. I have been so used to the fact that I am an authorized representative with building cooperative things, etc., that I refer to it as my place. Our relationship started to cool down, and we found out that we were not perfect for each other after all, so divorce it is. So we did the paperwork for divorce, and she is moving out. A few days ago, I received an email from her with a real estate valuation document as an attachment. While I was not at home, she wasted 500 euros for someone to evaluate an apartment that does not belong to us, and wrote that I probably have to take a loan to pay her the 50% of that. I replied to her, didn't I ever tell her that this place is a rental? Why does she even assume that I can afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the city center? She knows where I work and how much I earn. She called and screamed at me that I had lied to her for years and hid the fact that the apartment was rental. Then she tells me that, well, she will take the car as we got that together. And I was quiet for a moment and then told her, you do know that is a lease, right? The owner of the car is the bank. Then she demanded that I pay for the valuation, and I replied, I did not ask you to do it. She called me an asshole and ended the call. Of course, she told our whole friends group how I lied to her during the whole marriage. And there was a discussion in a messenger group with friends that if is it a lie or not, whether was it an asshole thing to do, some agree with me and some with her. My best friend told me that this is a perfect topic for a Reddit thread. Now I ask you, Reddit, AITA?
AITA for always putting my boobs on the table? So basically, my group of friends, about 8 total, get together every week for D&D. There are only 2 women in our group, including myself. It's always at friend A's house because he's the DM and has his fancy table and his whole setup there. A has a fiancé who recently moved in with him. She's cool and I don't really have anything against her. She just has her own group of friends and doesn't have the same interests as us, or clique, for a lack of a better word, with her husband's friends, us. She recently has been trying to get more into A's interests, so she has been there for our games. She doesn't play with us, just kind of watches and plays on her phone, which is fine, of course. A has a table he set up specifically for the game, one with a recessed middle so we don't have to put away our stuff. At the end, he just puts a leaf over the top to protect it. Because of that, in order to move around your character, you have to lean forward or stand to be able to reach. Now I have big boobs. I'm not a particularly big woman. I'm like in my late 20s, 5 feet 4 inches, and 155-ish pounds with H-cup breasts. And yes, before you ask, I have already started the process of getting a reduction, and I cannot wait to have this weight off of me. The problem is that when I lean forward to move my character, my breasts squish against the side of the table, and after a while it gets uncomfortable and painful. So I've taken to lifting up a little and settling with my breasts sitting on the edge of the table. It doesn't push them up or call attention to them. To be honest, I don't even think it's noticeable. With the height of the chairs, I can still sit normally with them there and lean forward without it hurting my boobs. I've been doing this for months, and no one has said anything, but last week A's fiancé snapped out of nowhere and accused me of trying to put myself on display and to put my boobs away because no one cares. I was shocked and didn't know what she was talking about at first. Neither did anyone else until she pointed at my boobs and called attention to what I was doing. She got really upset and caused a scene, and we ended the night early. She's still mad at me and doesn't want me to come over to the house anymore. I've apologized and said I'd try not to do it anymore, and even told her how I'm going to get it reduced next year. She called me a show-off and slut and is asking A to stop being friends with me. I'm at a loss. I do this all the time. I've even caught myself doing it at home with my own table without even thinking about it. AITA?
8 for refusing to cancel child support. I have been taking care of my sister's 32-year-old daughter for around 6 years. This all started when my sister got arrested for felony theft and drug charges. She's been a longtime addict, poor mouther, and family manipulator. No one else in my family stepped up, so I offered to take my niece in while my sister did drug treatment to avoid jail. From the beginning, my niece, then around 10, didn't want anything to do with her mom. I thought that was odd, but over the first few months I had her, my niece opened up about her mom having treated her very poorly. I sought a guardianship for my niece and told my sister that I would not willingly send my niece back to her unless my sister got off the drugs and sorted her life out. My sister initiated a legal fight with me to terminate the guardianship. I grew to love this kid like my own, and I didn't want to send her back to a bad environment. It cost me 6 figures over the course of a year and a half in legal fees. I won. I managed to marshal substantial evidence of my sister's ongoing substance abuse, and the court relied upon the report of a court-appointed guardian ad litem who reported favorably about my niece in my care and about my niece's negative view of her mother. At some point in the legal process, as I was shelling out 5-figure monthly legal bills, I learned that as my niece's guardian, I was entitled to child support, so I filed the forms to seek it and won it. The state oversees the support award and is apparently pretty thorough in seeking it, garnishing paychecks and bank accounts. Now, years on, I am starting to get pressure from other family to forgive the child support. I have family reaching out to me saying my sister is doing better and just can't get ahead having to give up portions of her paycheck every month. With back amounts, it's like $30,000 in back support that I am owed. I don't need it, really, if I'm being honest. I make a good living, better than anyone else in my family has done. In all likelihood, sister's debt, it will never be paid in full. But I don't want to let it go. I've started telling relatives, hey, that's great that you want to help sister. Why don't you pay me her $30,000 debt plus the present value of the award until niece is 18? And then I'll forgive sister's obligation. Relatives have been huffy at that response. My sister initiated a fight with me knowing full well she was back on drugs and lied about it and got caught in open court. It was all a waste of a large amount.